Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Friday, the 4th of October. And obviously, given it's Friday, it means we got the Beastie Boys on. Come on, Mr. Brown.
Morning, Ryan. Morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy Jobs Day.
Oh, yeah, forgot about that. Oh, shit. New Squawks on. Let me turn them down. One sec.
Rabbiting away.
Rabbiting away. Oh, tell me, Beastie. It's all kicking off here.
Oh,
Um,
dear.
right, what's happening? How are you? Oh, effectively legals, I suppose, aren't
Yeah,
I?
come on. Make sure
Sorry,
we're all,
sorry.
whiter than white. No, you can't
Right,
say that these days,
no,
can you?
oh God, this one ain't going to sue
Oh,
me. Nothing discussed on this basis session constitutes trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ Global Limited, trading as PIQ or PIQ Suite or its affiliates, including the hosts, which is Mr. M Brown and myself, Mr. R Paisley. Yeah, good morning,
indeed. Can
everyone.
we just
It,
address the elephant in the
sorry,
room? Why Zach Eisman is making so many gestures at us this morning?
he's waving about something. Maybe he sent you a message. I don't know.
No, he
Um,
hasn't.
In the words of my dear friend James Mitchell, aka Straubs, which is listening in, as he said this morning at about 6 a.m., we finally made it. We made it through the week, guys. Well, you might have gone a little bit early, but we'll see. Um, yeah, so what's happened? What's happened yesterday? Tell us.
Yes,
Divulge.
indeed, I shall divulge. Good morning, everybody. It was another day where markets were really waiting, but in vain, for a potential Israeli response to the Iranian missile barrage that was launched, of course, on Tuesday, and that did keep a lid on sentiment throughout the day. The S&P 500 ending the day about 0.2% lower, and the Nasdaq trading flat. Interestingly, those moves mask what we're seeing at the moment on an intraday basis, and what we have seen over the last couple of days is that any rallies are getting sold into pretty rapidly and pretty aggressively. And that's not particularly surprising that we're seeing longs take profit in the equity space relatively rapidly, because, of course, who really wants to be running significant exposures given what's going on in the world at the moment? Again, all eyes remained on the Middle East yesterday, and it was President Biden who decided to shake markets up with a Bloomberg headline crossing midway through the afternoon yesterday that Biden is discussing an Israeli strike on Iranian oil facilities. Now, of course, this headline caused crude to rip higher, with WTI trading around 5% to the upside. Its best day in just under a year, with the front contract trading to a 1-month high at $73.75 a barrel, and also popping north of the 50-day moving average. But some context around this is important, because the actual remarks were probably not as harsh or as severe as that Bloomberg headline implied. What had actually happened is that Biden was outside the White House waiting to get into his helicopter, and a reporter asked Joe Biden whether the US would support Israel if they were to strike Iranian oil infrastructure. And Biden responded with, "We're discussing that." Whether he's discussing the
Well,
actual strikes or whether they would support them or not remains to be
I'll go another
seen.
step further, right? I actually posted at the time afterwards. I was like, can anyone be 100%? And I'm not saying this to have a dig. It is a dig, but I don't
Oh, he ain't
mean
got a
it.
clue, has he? Let's be honest.
No, but this is it. Like, we can't be mugging him off that he was talking about the wrong fucking like strikes the other day. He was like, they asked him about the Israeli strike or the Iranian strikes. He was talking about the port strikes. So look, it's not.
Fucking hell.
Well, this is it, right? It's not completely out of the question that he doesn't know what he's being asked, let alone what he's saying. So I said straight
That's
at the
very
time,
true.
I was like, look, I appreciate, again, fade the news, but fade the headlines. But don't sit there talking to me, telling me one day that Biden does not understand questions, let alone form answers, and then say, "Oh my God, he said this. This means this is going to happen." Pick a side, any side, but stick with it. Yeah, I think that was a bit of a nightmare. And also, just whilst we're on this exact subject, um, we did have some walk back, as you'd expect, where the US have come out and said we do not believe Israel has decided how to
Yeah,
respond, including whether or not to hit oil facilities. But obviously, more of that in a second. So yeah, it's gone from like
I think the FT were running that,
it's
weren't they?
gone from like, oh my God, Biden's just let slip they're targeting oil facilities, to actually like, actually guys, we don't know what they're going to do yet. And Biden's just being Biden.
Yes. Indeed. One thing I would
Go
say,
on.
though, is that this just proves the degree of nervousness that remains in the market. And of course, looking ahead, obviously, you don't need me to tell you that today is
Is
Friday.
it?
We're going into the weekend with geopolitical risk remaining incredibly high. And of course, that begs the question, are market participants wanting to hold positions over the
Well, this
weekend?
is it.
And what I really mean is, who the fuck would be short
Well,
crude going into the weekend if there hasn't been a
well,
response
this is
today?
it. So on that again, might as well tick things off that I've got lined up
Oh,
on
there's
my.
a lot of little
No,
segues going on
I'm
here. This
loving
is
it,
going
mate.
very
I'm
well.
fucking loving it. So yeah, so on that, we have had some commentary already out this morning saying it will take a couple of days for them, and this was last night for Israel's response. And obviously, I'm not just, I kind of was always saying, oh, it really doesn't matter if it's on a weekend or not. Like they're not planning for weekends, but it does seem a bit weird that all these kind of big events do happen at weekends. So maybe they are saving it away from the markets. I don't know. But I might have mentioned in the past, I used to trade a bit of oil. I barely mentioned it. But one thing, it's not just a case of don't be short this weekend. It's like a known thing, right? No one holds big, like
Well, yeah,
any
any weekend,
crude
to be fair.
trader worth his salt will kind of tell you that you don't hold big shorts over weekends. There's just no upside. Yeah, there you go.
Indeed. Yes. No, I fully agree with that. Anyway, stepping away from
Oh,
geopolitical developments for a second, I'm sure Ryan will return to those momentarily. We did have some data yesterday. The main highlight was the ISM Services Index in the United States. The index rising to 54.9 in September, so big beat compared to the 51.7 consensus, and also above the top of the forecast range. That headline metric is the highest since February of 2023. The subcomponents of the report, though, were a little bit more mixed. The prices paid metric that rose to its highest level since January of 2024, and the employment index that fell to 48.1, a 3-month low, and implying a decline in employment in the services sector. Nevertheless, the market was focused squarely on the headline number, and that saw continued selling pressure across the Treasury curve, with both 2 and 10-year yields rising by around 7 basis points apiece. And it was also a bit of a boon for the dollar, with the greenback gaining ground for the 4th day in a row, with the dollar index rising by 0.5% and trading north of the 102 figure. Those gains took the dollar index, I should say, to its highest level since late August, and were relatively broad-based across the G10 FX market. Obviously, the pound, the worst performer on the day, was cabled down
boo.
around once. Knew that was coming. Down around 1.2%. That was the pound's worst day for a year and a half, obviously, after those comments from Bank of England Governor Bailey this time yesterday morning. Cable briefly below 131 yesterday, although we have paired some of those losses in early trade this morning. Other higher beta G10s also underperforming yesterday, with the Aussie and the Kiwi down by about 0.7% apiece. In terms of other bits and bobs from yesterday, there wasn't too much to remark upon. The jobless claims data out of the United States was pretty much in line with expectations, a little bit above consensus on the initial claims number and below on the continuing claims print, although neither pertains to the survey week for the September non-farm payrolls number, which is of course due a little bit later on today. And a couple of fiscal headlines. Obviously, we had on Wednesday news out of France that they are planning, 60 billion euros worth of spending cuts and tax increases to try and balance their budget. Well, yesterday it was Italy's turn. They are planning a windfall levy on various companies in their economy who have I quote from the finance minister here, who have benefited the most from the economic turbulence of recent years. So making a profit is about to be outlawed in Italy, it would seem. The Italians aiming to bring their budget deficit below 3% in 2026. It's currently at 3.8%. 3%, of course, is the European Commission's rather arbitrary limit at which they impose various excessive deficit procedures. And sticking with the fiscal side of things, here in the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer not only signing away bits of the country yesterday, but also deciding to pledge £22 billion worth of funding for various
Hang on,
carbon
that
capture
number rings a
projects.
bell. Why is this 22
I was going
billion?
to say, answers on
Why
a
does
postcard,
22
please,
billion
as
ring a
to what
bell?
else that 22 yards could be used for.
Oh,
Um,
oh.
Indeed. Let's well the thing is, carbon capture, but we're going to freeze all the old people so they won't be able to put their heating on, which means we'll
Oh,
produce less carbon
hang
anyway.
on,
So it all seems a bit
hang on,
counterintuitive to me.
hold up. I'm no marine biologist, but could we not fill the OAPs up with carbon?
Oh God.
Just flown it out there. Yeah,
Oh no.
someone's going to have to do this.
I,
Someone
I
else do the science. I'm just an ideas man.
I think that could be illegal. But before we digress
Doesn't
into
mean it's
that,
not
that
right,
is me
Michael, as I've
done.
told you before.
Oh
So,
Christ. Geopolitics.
go, go,
Go.
go. Oh, just quickly, James Mitchell, Straub's Brokers to the Stars, is up, kind of suggesting that cable might be up on a pill pushback at 08:55. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yes, the BOE chief economist is speaking. I mean, it might be a tough pill to swallow for the Bears if he is a little bit
God,
more
everyone loves a
hawkish than Governor
pushback.
Bailey
Mm.
yesterday. But, well, the thing is, it might just be the medicine that markets
Oh
need.
God! Oh fucking! Oh, have you and Straubs pre-planned this? Have I just walked into some kind of
No,
trap?
not at
I feel
all.
like I've just
No.
been set up. Oh God! Right, anyway, moving on because I'm going to slip my wrist in a second.
Oh,
Um,
well, the thing is, a
oh
spoonful of sugar helps the
God!
puns go down.
Make it stop! Make it stop!
can, can you tell I'm feeling better
Yeah, I
today?
can. Oh God, I'm not. Right. Anyway, some geopolitical headlines via our friends at News Corp. Obviously, unless you've been living under a rock, U.S. dock workers have agreed to a deal to end their current strike. I believe it's like 65% pay rise, all right for some, but they have agreed to consider some automation where it is needed, i.e., everywhere. Um, Going to Israel and Iran. Obviously, that's where the action is. Again, as always, this is an incredibly live situation. So what you're listening to now might already be out of date. I apologise for that, but I'm not a mind reader. I can't see the future. Israel's chief of staff said they will continue to fight on all fronts. Quite bizarrely, in my opinion, but fair play to him. The Iranian foreign minister has arrived in Beirut. Brave, I assume. Um, Israel's response to the Iranian missile attack will be within a few days. That's what we mentioned earlier on, which puts it on the weekend. So all eyes on that. Expect possibly to see some, defensive positioning as the day draws into a close. Although, if you're not already playing defensively ahead of NFP, then, oof, it's fair play to you. As I said before, US official have said that President Biden was clear that he does not support an Israeli attack on Iranian nuclear facilities. Um, and yeah, I believe that's probably a good thing. I don't know, I'm no expert. Moving over, looking at Ukraine, Russia for a second. Ukrainian drone strikes targeted a fuel depot in Russian town of Voronezh Oblast. I'm butchering that, but bear with me on it. We've also had reports from Ukraine saying Russia attacked its critical infrastructure with 19 drones. That came out just before we went out on the air. Um, what else we got? So North Korean leader Kim warned North Korea will use nuclear weapons if South Korea and US use force, while he said the enemy's threats will not take away North Korea's nuclear weapons and it has irreversibly secured nuclear power as well as the system and function for using it. Big words. Big words, little man. Just a couple of other things looking around. So obviously we've got quite a pivotal vote in the EU today where the EU government's voting on the Chinese EV tariffs. So European Union members face the pivotal vote on today on whether to impose tariffs of up to 45% on imports of Chinese-made electric vehicles. It will be the bloc's highest profile trade case for many a year, which risks retaliations from Beijing. Now, to get into the details a little bit on this, so the EU's proposal can be blocked if a qualified majority of 15 EU members representing 65% of the EU population vote against it. But that's a high hurdle.
Fuck me. How
Well, this is
complicated do
why
they
you
want to
always
make this
get long
voting
EU
process?
Brussels caterers, right? Because this probably took 5 weeks to work out.
What, some geezers going around with a
Well,
tally chart working out whether they've got the
this is
65% or
it.
not?
Reuters have already reported on Wednesday, I believe it was, that France, Greece, and Italy and Poland would vote in favour, which would give them enough votes to avert the blocking. Interestingly, I believe I saw on PIQ, the best news feed around, best news platform around. I'm pretty sure I saw it flash through just now on PIQ Suite that Sweden are going to abstain. Obviously, Volvo is Sweden. Also, most importantly, the region's top economy, for now. A major car producer, Germany, is going to vote against the tariffs. So we're going to see some division raise its ugly head within the EU. Just for your guide, when they did the non-binding vote a couple of months ago, they abstained. So they've definitely taken the position that they should not. So they shouldn't be implying these. Sorry, applying these tariffs.
Do you want to start
Sorry, yeah,
again?
no. Do you know what? I started. It's because I started reading a headline that just dropped as I was trying to read that, and I kind of just my brain kind of melted. Obviously, German car makers massive for Germany, massive for the EU. China represents almost a third of their sales, and particularly